answer, but kind of an explanation that you can give to somebody to say, look, yes, we can rely on the Bible, and it's not just the imaginings of a whole bunch of crazy men over thousands of years. Because at the end of the day, when people criticise the Bible, it's just because they haven't read it,
Invariably,
basically. And personally, I find it pretty irritating, and I'd like to be able to have as you said, a reasonable response.
Sure.
To say that it's not unreliable.
Yeah, I mean, there's two questions about the reliability of the Bible. One is its textual reliability. Like, the Bible could be saying, monkeys drive cars on Mars. But it could be textually reliable. The textual reliability of a book deals with its transmission through the ages. Okay? Even though its content might be absurd, textual reliability is something that we must look at. Its internal historical reliability then is another question. That's how it deals with the facts as we know them. And so it's two levels of question, yeah? Like, if they're attacking it,
the source of the material.
yeah, I mean, if they're attacking just a general question like, the Bible is, it's being translated so many times that no one even knows what it says, you could just say, look, the Bible, as we know it today, is translated from the original languages. It's not a translation of a translation of a translation. These are translations that are worked off the original languages. It's a historical work that is unsurpassed by far. I mean, the best, most reliable evidence we have of Alexander the Great comes 400 years after his death by a Greek historian, Arian. Handful of copies, over a millennium in written, incomplete. Did Alexander the Great exist? Can we know anything about him? I mean, if you're consistent, you say, no way. But I mean, no serious historian would say that. They would absolutely accept the testimony of Arian, even though it's embarrassing compared to the New Testament. The amount of manuscripts are vast. The time difference is minuscule. So those are two things really that you could point out. Is the amount of manuscript evidence is hundreds of times greater than anything from the classical era. The time gap from composition to the earliest manuscript is minuscule. For most classical authors, it's a millennium. For the New Testament, it could be no more than 60 years. So, I mean, for those two things alone, the textual reliability of the Bible is unsurpassed. Nothing comes close to it. The historical reliability is a whole other question. I mean, I would have to address a specific criticism, you know what I mean? I guess you just have to say it's something general. Yeah, absolutely. It's something
is the divine inspiration, and that's something we can't really argue with.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, I mean, it is a historical book in the sense that it passed through history like any other book, but it's unique in the sense that its evidence is so vastly superior to anything else. Like if you go to Easton's, you pick up a copy of any of the classics, like Herodotus or anything, there isn't that thing on the back of the book saying the textual evidence is so dodgy, hardly any of this ever happened, so you're kind of wasting your time reading it. It doesn't say that because that's irrational. Historical evidence, you have to deal with the manuscripts that you have. In the New Testament, it's hundreds of times greater. And that's only the Greek. I mean, if you take the Latin into account, you have over 10,000 manuscripts with Latin. Even if you got rid of every single manuscript of the Bible, you could reconstruct the entire text of the New Testament, bar 11 verses, just using early church form quotations. So, I mean, that amount of evidence, if it stacks up, I would say to reject it in spite of all that really shows an inherent bias against the facts. Absolutely. Like it's